All right, so you're ready to start your pulse feedback for your participant. Before you begin, we want to make sure your pulse feedback settings are correct and how you want them for the project. So click on the pulse feedback settings navigation on the project page. That'll take you to the pulse feedback settings page where you can adjust the number of pulse feedback rounds. We'll start with 4. The pulse feedback round setting is a setting that you can adjust after your pulse feedback rounds begin. So if you decide in your project you want to enable more pulse feedback setting rounds, you can do that at any point in time. Your pulse feedback format and scale, this is an important setting, and once that pulse feedback goes out, this setting you won't be able to adjust this setting. You have a choice between a traditional format, which is a Likert scale, 1 to 5, 1 to 7, 1 to 9. You'll be able to see those in bar chart format or line chart format. Or a progress scale, which is a negative scale, -3 to +3 as an example, where 0 represents no change. So you can select between a -3 to +3 or a -1 to +1 scale. We'll select a -3 to +3 scale, and we'll select some anchor values here, or if you don't want any anchor values, you can choose no definitions, and the scale will just have a thumbs up or thumbs down at the end of each scale. You'll be able to adjust your pulse feedback privacy settings. The partially anonymous is the default setting, so that keeps the supporter's identity hidden. And then finally, you can choose enable reminder emails. So if a participant and a supporter have not responded to the pulse feedback, Coachmetrix will send some reminder follow-ups. When your settings are all set, click Save the Project, and now you're ready to begin scheduling your pulse feedback process. Okay, so to set up your pulse feedback process, click on your participants tile. Click on Feedback underneath the participant's name. And to set up your pulse feedback, you have 2 options. You can send immediate pulse feedback. This is an on-demand process. Or you can schedule the pulse feedback process, and it's kind of a set it and forget it. So let's schedule the automated pulse feedback process. And this is probably the most common way to set up your pulse feedback. Click on the Automate Pulse Feedback button. Here you'll see on the right-hand side all of the pulse feedback project settings that you just created. To set up your automated pulse feedback, click on the Enable Automatic Pulse Feedback Requests. You can set the frequency between rounds. So if you want your pulse feedback to go out every 30 days, you can enter that in here. And then you'll select the date of your first pulse feedback round. It has to be some date beyond today's date. So let's set it for, in this example, May 13th. And once that's all set, you'll click Save Your Preferences. And now your pulse feedback will begin on May 13th and go out every 45 days after that for the number of rounds that you selected in your pulse feedback settings. That's the Automate Pulse Feedback option. Only the coach has the ability to automate the pulse feedback. The coach or the participant have the ability to request immediate pulse feedback. When either the coach or the participant clicks on the Request Immediate Pulse Feedback button, your Request Immediate Pulse Feedback button screen will come up. You'll see the pulse feedback settings that we set earlier. You'll see the pulse feedback round. If you want to change this to a different round, you can do that manually, but the pulse feedback round will automatically roll forward to the appropriate round. You can select your supporters. So if you don't want Tom Smith to provide feedback for that round, you can deselect that supporter. And then once you click Request Pulse Feedback, that first round of pulse feedback will go out immediately to both the supporters that were selected and to the participant.